So I want to talk about today, like I usually do talk about what's going on in general. And let's just look at it with what's going on in our society. How our society runs. Like what are we doing here? Alright? So we're kind of just born. We go to school. We go to church or whatever. And we're brought up into this culture. We teach kids how to behave and all this shit. We teach people how to fit into our society. And pretty much everyone is born into the society that they are, and it's already established. If you're born today or 100 years ago, the society established. Everybody was born into an established culture, an established society, all right? Unless maybe you're just a baby born somewhere, but that obviously it's just ridiculous exceptions. Okay, so, we're just born into society. And, people just take it for what it is. That's what exists. You're just some dude on earth. You wake up, you take a shower, you go to work, driving your little car. Hey, listen to the radio. Uptown Funk, going to turn it up. I fucking love that song, Uptown Funk. But anyways, you just listen to this shit. You do your thing, kind of go through life, and you're part of the society, this workforce. And, how do we have to work? Well, we have to work so we can all pitch in and mutually create the society. We all have to be a part. We all have to pitch in and work together, right? That's what we have to do. We all have to work so we can have the society, so we can have our nice things and our TVs and our concerts and our, smartphones and all this shit, That's what, all right. That's kind of the narrative that we're living in, We all have to work together, pitch in and all this shit. But, and so we're just living for what? We're just living, kind of just doing what we do on Earth, being a little Earth dude. Hey, I'm an Earth dude going to work. And then, maybe I go to church and pray to God. And I don't really understand what it is, but I pray to God and hope, everybody has a different idea of what God is and all this. And, it's just kind of what you do. You hope that you go to heaven because, life here sucks. So maybe we can go to heaven, it'll be better, or maybe you think, nah, I don't believe that shit. I just live life and I just go through the motions and, that's life just this meaningless existence of random particles and you're just this little thing here along the way, just, perceiving itself or something, Okay. It's cool. But either way, what the fuck are we doing as a society? What the fuck are we structured? Why the fuck are we structured the way we are? What the fuck's really going on here? Why are we doing all this shit? What do we want to do here? Kind of the narrative is that, we need to build more shit. Alright? That's our definition of progress. Building shit. Technological progress. We need to build more shit. Build it. Why? Just because that's what we do. We got to keep building shit because that's what's going to make us happy. Just building shit and having more stuff to fuck around with. Is that what's going to make us happy? Is it? Is that even what we want? Do we want to be happy? Or do we want to build stuff? Or do we build stuff because we think that's going to make us happy? I don't know. I feel like what we want is, to be happy. We want a pleasant state of consciousness. We have consciousness. Maybe we are consciousness. I'm not going to get into all that right now, okay? Let's just take it for what it is, okay? Consciousness, that's what you feel, all right? In general. So what you want to feel good, okay? Do you not? Do you not want to feel good? Overall, long term, what is the best? That's what you want. You want the best state of feeling for you and everybody else. Sure, in general. And whatever you say, no, I'd rather have it this way or this way, this way. It's yeah, all right, but that's your definition of what's feeling good for you, okay? You get my point here, all right? So you want to feel good and do all this. So our society, particularly where I live in fucking America, okay? Midwest America, we just, people here, we just I don't know what it's like everywhere else, really. Some parts it's largely similar. But, we just kind of go through this shit and we kind of accept that this is our society and what we need to do is keep progressing through this idea of getting more technology, making our lives easier, making the day-to-day living easier. Is that what we're doing here? what are we doing here? Why are we doing the stuff we do? What do we really want to do? What's the purpose of what we're doing? Is there a higher purpose, or we just got to live, right? There's no, if you take it some religious context, some people say that, we're fulfilling a more divine purpose. Like God's got this plan for us to do this stuff. And, but most people don't really articulate well what God's plan is or what this whole thing is. I mean, that's a whole deep subject, all right? And so we don't need to worry about that right now, because that's what the modern religions are actually perpetuating. Doesn't actually seem to be this cosmic overall. See, what I'm talking about, what I think is an interesting point, that you want to look at, is this overall cosmic evolution of consciousness. Consciousness, so if there's some, let's call it divine, you don't even have to think about it as divine. You just think about the universe in existence. Maybe there's multiple universes. There probably are. In fact, I can't imagine that there aren't. Well, whatever. Maybe I can't imagine it. Anyways, all right, so what I'm saying here is, what would the universe want it to do? It would want the same thing we would. It wants the best state of feeling for itself. So if we are a part of some overall cosmic scheme of importance, perhaps it would just be to develop higher and better states of consciousness for existence itself. Okay? So you could take that as if it means something religious to you or not. It doesn't have to be anything related to the religions directly. Like, you don't need to look at that saying that we're the sole purpose, like we're the one true path to your destiny, your enlightenment, your salvation. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of fucked up. Someone tells you they're the one and only true path. Okay? You know what I mean? And you don't need to look at that any other way than that. It's just if what's good is what's a better feeling overall for everybody too. It wouldn't just be for like human beings or whatnot. We would want what's good overall. And so, like, obviously there's a lot, we wouldn't all agree what we think is good overall. But it would have to do with this whole, with consciousness and all this, right? And so, and that's what I'm saying. You don't have to look at this as like in the fucking religious context at all. That like you're never gonna truly know what it is to feel good until you love Jesus. It's like, okay, why? Why the fuck? If Jesus was God's only son, why would God just have one son? And that's all right. So if God's got the power to do whatever he wants, whatever. God relies on us. God wants us to do good. Wants us not to sin, perhaps. Whatever you fucking look at it. God has, there's something God wants us to do, so he sends down Jesus. And, this is very important to God. That's why he sent his only son. You realize how caring that dude is? To send his only son? As if he couldn't make more of them because he's fucking God? Seems like it's like, oh, you gotta think about the sacrifice God made for you. It's like, well, what the fuck? God can do whatever he wants. Why does he? So if God can do whatever he wants and he wants us to be good, why wouldn't he just, intervene that way? Because we have free will. Now, that would actually be a good answer to that question, because you can't honestly look at this saying that we have a choice to either sin or not sin and then say it's all part of God's plan and God is the ultimate control of human beings. Human beings? Beings? What if there were beings that you could plant and then it would sprout into a human and people wouldn't have to be pregnant anymore? Alright, that's just weird shit. Never mind. Alright, getting a little off topic here. Wholly off topic. Because first I was talking about building shit and why we don't need to just keep building shit. And then I just was going to talk about why some things about God don't make any sense. But if you go back to what I'm saying, the whole cosmic evolution of consciousness, that's interesting shit. I could talk a lot about that. But I was going to go back to these ideas. So, God can have all this power. He can do whatever he wants. And it's very important that, we do what he wants or something. And he has the power to, intervene. But he doesn't intervene all the time. He just only sometimes intervenes. but it's very important that we do what he wants. Why? Okay? And what the fuck's God really doing with us here? I don't know. Does that even make any sense at all, to think that there's something outside of existence which creates it in a certain way? Now, you should see my other videos where I talk about, Descartes and the idea that, Descartes started this kind of, basically you could say, Descartes, René Descartes, French philosopher, came up with this thing about how, basically it was, called Cartesian dualism, of how the universe works like a machine, and then like the soul is something separate, and then, it helps justify doing, science and separating science from superstitious religion. Okay. But that took a bad turn for our science, because it made our science approach the universe like a machine instead of this organic living unity, and led to like reductionism, which reductionism is the ultimate bullshit. Well, it's part of the ultimate bullshit. The ultimate bullshit may be that you don't have the power, which ties into the idea of reductionism. See, I was taught reductionism in school, took metaphysics classes. I'm a philosopher. Learned philosophy in schools, and it was metaphysics. And they're like, yeah, it's reductionism. And, I was taught, like, this is a leading theory here. They didn't teach you much about, non-reductionism, like, barely, like, glimpses, just to, like, say they did it, but, like, not really. The premise was you need to understand reductionism. I could fucking understand reductionism. It's not that fucking hard. It's the idea that, everything can be reduced to the fundamental lowest explanation of causal force, like, that there's no over and above causative action. Causation happens from, like, the most reduced spot, kind of. Like, you could say that, it's all the laws of the subatomic particles or some shit, and there's no, like, there's no overarching consciousness which can have a causal impact on its existence, because it, you could reduce consciousness to neuroscience, and you can't have a choice. It's the fundamental laws of neuroscience, which is just a ridiculous concept in the beginning of it, or in the first part. But anyways, so what the fuck are we doing here? That was the basic premise of this video, but I never really stay on topic because I just do shit. Okay, so what are we doing here? All right, what the fuck are we doing? Why are we doing it? Why are we living like this? What do we want to do? Okay? Are we just, running around, just following the motions, just, that's life, man, That's what you gotta do. You gotta wake up, you gotta go to work, then you come home from work, and then you watch TV, and then, you go to bed, and then you do it all over again. But then there's the weekend. Maybe you can drink some beers and have some fun on the weekend. That's cool. You want to do that, right? So then it's just this constant cycle of never really working towards anything except for this illusion of progress through this technological advancement, which is supposedly to do what? Just to do it? The fuck? Like, what are we trying to do here? Like, we want to build more shit. For what purpose? Just to build more shit? Just so we have more shit to play with? I mean, I like playing with things. Don't get me wrong here. I like the internet. I like all this stuff. I'm not saying it's inherently bad. I haven't even proposed an alternative of what to do. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying it's inherently bad to, like, build shit and to have technology and technological endeavors and all this shit. But I'm saying is, we gotta question what the fuck we're really doing here in the first place. Like, are we just building shit to build shit? What would the point of that be? So, you look at ancient times, I mean, you can go back even to, like, Plato, which is, like, Western philosophy. There's other shit with the Eastern philosophy. You think of more of, like tribal people, in the times where, like, kind of more like the spiritual tribal nature, think of, like, kind of the Native American mentality or whatever, the spirit, like, kind of the animism and some shit, like, these old philosophical, that it's all, like, there's these spirits and shit, what I'm saying here? But then you can get into, like, Plato and shit, and then, they were questioning this shit back then, too. Like, there was quotes of Socrates talking about how technology is going to make everybody dumb and fat and stuff. Like, 2,500 years ago. And it didn't I mean, obviously, technology isn't just electronic technology. It's fucking anything. It helps you churn butter or, just any kind of fucking tool and some stuff. Not just fucking tools like dildos, which are technologies. And then there's vibrators, which are even more technologically advanced, because they vibrate. Some use batteries. I don't know if there's many plug-in vibrators. It'd be kind of weird. I mean, I don't own vibrators personally. But if I did, maybe I would have a vagina. Anyway, what the fuck am I talking about now? Alright. So what I'm saying here is, what the fuck are we doing? Okay? What the fuck are we doing? We need to consider this a little more heavily. And we need to consider why our society is structured like this. Okay? I've been looking into this a little bit, and I've found some interesting stuff. Now, I'm first going to tell you, I don't really know what the fuck's going on here. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to try to present this like, well, here's what some people say. Like, I don't know, but, here's what they say. Okay, so you got to work with me. I'm not trying to tell you I know what's going on. I'm not trying to sit here and say I got the answers. I just want to ask some questions, okay? And I want to work this out with you, Mr. YouTube watcher. You're like, or Mrs. YouTube watcher, or Ms. YouTube watcher, or, whatever you are. Come out, wherever you are. All right. So let's get into this a little bit. So that's what I'm saying. So we just keep building shit, and we go to war. Wait, what the fuck do we go to war for? This is kind of weird. Why have we been going to war throughout all human history? And where the fuck did governments come from in the first place? Why do they form governments? Oh, well, everybody knows. It's basic logic. They formed governments so that, we could have an organization and a peaceful community to interact with, and there's absolutely no other reason why they'd have governments other than for the good of the people. We all know that governments are just for the good of the people and not for somebody trying to do some ulterior motives. Interesting. Okay. Seems like almost every government ever has been corrupt. How are they corrupt? You know what I mean? Like, those other governments in the past and everybody else besides, America, because we're freedom, bitch. You know what I mean? If you're not American, like in America they teach you. I mean, this was the impression I got that, like, America was the only good country. I'm sure they teach it everywhere. I mean, it's like, America is the free one. Everywhere else isn't really free. Their governments are corrupt. They're controlling. But America, we're good over here. America's the best, you know what I mean? Like, that's what they teach you in America. Of course they do. They teach you that everywhere. Not that that our country is the best, hometown team. You gotta choose. And I like America. I ain't saying anything bad about America. Why would I? I'm American. I love America. But I just want to figure out what's good. And, it's not America. I think America was actually founded for possibly right reasons. Like, there was all this other corruption, and so they formed America. I mean, that's the story, and maybe that's a little bit of truth to it, and then maybe some bad things happened along the way to America to get this corruption. Now, what is this corruption? So let's get back to the idea of wars. So, you could say that, why do we really fight wars? Is it really because of our political ideology, or does it have to do with money? Okay? It doesn't not that hard to think that maybe we fight wars because of money. Like, we go to, the Middle East because they have oil, and, or, to go back to this, idea that all the, the big corporations are really in charge, and, the central banking systems and shit. This is what people say, they got these banking systems and these big corporations, and it's all this hierarchical system until you really trace it all back to the top, and there's these few rich elite, and all the money's cycling through them, and, this whole fraction reserve banking system and shit, how, it creates this debt through society and all this shit. And, these banking systems and big corporations are really just in control, and lobbyists, having power over the government so that they can just make money. Okay? You can go back to this, it's not that hard to understand that, and you could say, oh, it's just greedy people wanting money for the purpose of just them being greedy, and that's just what they want. They're taking all the money, which really, this idea that it's just like, the 1%, which is really, maybe the 0.0001%, whatever. It's not the point. That, they're just hoarding all the money, and if they only just redistributed the money, everything would be okay or something. But that's not really what it's about, because, economics is defined about, how the limited amount of resources based on the unlimited human wants. And, like, really think about it, it's like money doesn't really do us any good in itself. We just want the resources, which we then, attribute to money. We buy, you know what I mean? But it's not, the money distribution isn't the idea here. Sorry about that, whatever. Because I don't edit these videos because I don't know how to do that, okay? I could figure it out, sure, but it's more fun to just keep doing research on this shit than whatever. Back to life, back to reality. We're not even going to really explain. I might touch on the nature of reality once I take this far. So, you know what I'm saying? So, just money, you could trace this back to the idea that, we go to war for money, that, for resources, whatever you want to look at it like. We have these big corporations and these structures and this whole society so that these rich people can just profit off of us. And maybe even you could say that they founded these religions just so they could steal money from people and say that they're giving it to God, but they're just making all this up. But it's not, it's got to go deeper than this. I mean, maybe it doesn't have to. I don't know, but I think it might go deeper than this. Might just go deeper than this idea that, it's just rich people trying to be richer because they're greedy. But how? What would exactly go deeper than this? Okay? And so, another thing, I'll tie this in. Okay? There's a lot of, so we're just sitting here on Earth, okay? And, you look up at the stars, and there's a lot of them. Billions, billions, trillions, quadrillions, whatever, there's just a lot. And that might just be our galaxy, all right, no, that's not the point. There's just a lot of fucking stars and shit. Planet, the whole universe, just riddled with all this shit. And we're sitting here, and we're these intelligent creatures just looking out, thinking, wonder if there's life other places. And so far, there's really not much, in the mainstream view, like the whole collective idea, there's not much. But then you really look into this, and there's a lot of people saying they've had contacts with UFOs. That, and people are saying that the government knows a lot about aliens, extraterrestrial beings. A lot. I've heard as much as, like, our governments are, people up top who are doing this shit, whoever they are, trading, and have relations with over 900 extraterrestrial species. Other people say less, but that's the most I've heard. 900. And that's just like our galaxy and shit. This is just outrageous. So, now let's consider too, let's go a little bit into the nature of reality and stuff, okay? So, you look out, and everything seems so material. But, scientists say that, it's not so material, it's not so solid. Really, an atom is 99.99% percent empty space. Although it's really not empty space. It's like this vacuum of space, which actually might contain this, like, maybe infinite amount of energy, which we can extract. It's like vacuum energy, and they've proven that it does exist, with this Kashmir effect and all this stuff. And so, but anyways, let's just call it 99% space. Like, it's mostly just not the material existence that we normally think of, okay? Then let's also consider that we only see as little as like 0.0035% of the electromagnetic spectrum, okay? So there's all other kinds of shit that we don't even see. And the parts that we do see are really made up of, ultimately we break it down and it's mostly like just a space, okay? And then there's these, dark matter, dark energy, and all this shit, which is not really the point here. Well, I mean, it all ties in. All right, so basically, what's actually reality out there isn't just like this material, simple existence. Okay? So how does this tie into what I'm fucking talking about? So maybe there's more going on than what we just perceive. Now, how could this be happening? Because life evolved through this idea of fitness. Okay? Now, there might be a little more to it than Darwinian evolution in terms of it not being a random genetic mutation, that there's some sophistication towards this through these feedback loops. I'm not even going to get into that right here, but that's a very interesting concept. We can consider for another day, another topic. All right? So, but the point is, so life evolved so that it would survive and have this survival mechanisms. Okay. I don't like just looking at it this way because that brings back stupid ideas about what existence really is and what human nature is and what it means to exist and be an actual free thinking will entity. But alright, but you can look at it that. And so we evolved not to actually have a true reflection of reality, but just have a certain understanding of reality to help us survive farther. Okay? So what reality actually is may not be what we just see. There's a lot more going on here. And there's just a whole nother dynamic, a whole nother fucking grand scheme more of what there is out there that we just don't sense. Okay? I mean, you get in the picture here a little bit. So this ties into these idea that, there's these interdimensional entities. What that would tie into is they can operate on, you can call them like frequencies, because there's like these wave frequencies. It's a lot of people say. Energy, frequency, vibration. It's all kind of the same thing, but it has to do with this mathematical relationships between things, okay? I'm not going to get into huge details here. I mean, you've heard these words before. All right, and so there can be these possibly other entities which operate in ways that we don't necessarily really sense like we sense just normal material matter like our everyday lives on Earth. Okay? So now maybe, this is what some people are saying here. I'm not just making this up. Maybe this is how some other entities are operating, and some people say they're feeding off of our energies of, of us earthlings. And then, okay, I kind of skipped around some topics here. So let's just go back to the idea that maybe, okay, so we're saying that, we go to war for money and we have this structure of building shit just for the sake of building shit and not really for the benefit of humanity, but overall, but just to benefit a few select at the top who profit off of us, and they're the ones who profit off the war, and it's just their profit thing, and, we're all just working for the man, And I'm saying, okay, there's more to it than that. Because what there really could be going on here is some overall metaphysical aspect of this control of our societies, and overall, for the benefit of some sort of other entities. So it's not just for the overall profiting of certain human entities, but there is some sort of overall benefit somehow on some higher scale, higher dimension to some other entities. Okay? And that's kind of weird. But, and some people say they feed off of our fear and all this stuff. I mean, I've just seen it all. And, I mean, it all relates and it's all tied, of course. And so, basically, also the point is, that, the government knows all these other alien beings. And why are they lying to us about it? Why the fuck? Somebody's lying to you. To me, at least. Somebody's lying to me. I mean, I've done all this research and, they're talking about some shit and other people are talking about other shit. And so somebody's got to be lying. I mean, yeah, they could just be wrong. But it's so developed that, clearly it's just somebody lying to you. They're saying things that it's like, as if it's, you're not just wrong saying you've encountered these. The government has all these secrets and stuff. I mean, they would be making that up if it's not true. Okay. And all these other things. And like religions, our religion, some people say, it's like, oh man, they're just trying to, they were just trying to make sense of their world and, in their limited fashion. So they came up and they invented all these ideas. And it's like, bro, you just made that shit up. Like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Really look into this. If the religions aren't true, I think there's a small aspect of, some parts of it that, make a little bit of sense, It's like, yeah, why don't we just love each other and forgive each other and just get along and sing and dance and rejoice? Okay? Kind of. All right. And, but then, so if you're saying that, these other aspects, like they're the one true source for your salvation and shit, and you need to follow this path and this path only, and you need to give us money, and you need to worship our deity, and you need to do this, and you need to do that, or else you'll never be saved, you'll never have this eternal glory and shit. Are they just making that up because that's all they can comprehend? Or is it purposely been manipulated for some sort of ulterior motive? And the basic hypothesis is that, it all ties in. It's all the same ulterior motive. The religious sources and all this control, all this lying and deception that's going on with our governments. Like, why is it so corrupt? Why are we at war? Why do we just keep building shit? Why are these corporations, like, doing all this weird shit? And, like, why are we doing all this? It's all tied into this ulterior motive. What is this ulterior motive? I don't really know. I've been trying hard to figure that out. What's this ulterior motive? What are they doing here? Why? What's going on? And it seems to be, like, I've heard people say that, like, oh, people are just sheep, just following, like, bah, I'm a sheep, bah, going along with all the other sheep, because that's what their sheep people do. We're just, little sheeple going along, following our orders, going to work, not really questioning it, just going to the fucking slaughterhouse, We're under this control system, right? But sheep have a farmer, and the farmer benefits off the sheep, okay? Who the fuck's the farmer? If the people are sheep, who's the farmer? And what is the farmer benefiting from us from? And here's the cool part about it. We don't need to be scared and be like, oh, I'm so scared now. There's this, this big, I just said nonsense. Like, there's a scary world that there's these aliens over our control system, and they're using us and feeding off of our energies, and I don't know what to do now. I'm so scared. Nah. See, it's cool. Because I've been trying to figure out what was going on for a long time. Now I have no idea about this shit. I didn't go looking for this shit. I just wanted to figure out what's going on. I started studying philosophy and a lot of theoretical physics. So I started studying philosophy. So I was raised Catholic, and I started not making sense of some of that stuff anymore. I was getting into college and just thinking about stuff, and stopped making sense of some of that and wanted to look in, and then I started studying some theoretical physics because I was like, all right, well, if God didn't do it, then how the fuck is it happening? Like, I just started to, like, get all these questions, and I was like, all right, if I lose that, then, like, I gotta, I studied a lot of theoretical physics and, started getting into quantum mechanics and all this stuff. And then around that same time, I started studying philosophy in schools and took that up, ended up minoring in that. And, then I ended up pursuing more philosophy in school after I graduated and all that, because I wanted to know philosophy, and I got very interested in it. And what I eventually began to find is that the philosophy we were taught in schools really wasn't that good. It was kind of weird philosophy. It was philosophy towards it was very limited. It wasn't very, like, it didn't, it was all this kind of bullshit, like, reductionistic philosophy, and, saying that you don't have free will, and it's just this determined nonsense, really, you know, and it just wasn't that sophisticated. It just didn't, I mean, at first it took me a while to like figure out what it was saying. So I'm like this naive philosopher, you know, or, you know, not naive necessarily, but like, you know, I'm just this eager to learn philosopher thinking like, I don't know as much as them. I'm young. I'm just getting into this. Like, I'm just going to listen to what they say, try to figure it out and not like over question it and like, you know, like think it's, wait a second, what if this is wrong? What if you're teaching me bullshit in order to control me for some ulterior motive? You know, I didn't have that approach at all. I just honestly tried to figure it out and I really worked with it, you know, studied all this shit. And it just eventually started to not sit right. It just didn't start to make sense. You know, you're just saying you don't have free will. And I figured out, you know, what that means, like, you know, the deterministic mindset. Like I started to get a hold of this physicalistic mindset. Physicalism, materialism, it's kind of, you know, the overarching paradigm of philosophy today, which suggests that consciousness is nothing more than this epiphenomenon in the brain and that, you know, it's reductionistic. For the most part, there's non-reductive physicalism and all this shit, but, you know, for the most part, the paradigm is reductive physicalism, and it's really not that hard to figure out. I mean, you know, that wasn't the, you know, and that part's not hard to figure out. Figure out that it's wrong is hard, because it's a strong control system, you know, like, you gotta be, you know, you gotta have the vagina to do this, you know, the balls, either one, take your pick. So, this is what I'm saying, you know, so what the fuck am I saying? It's a good question, because I've kind of just jumped here, jumped there. I jump everywhere, you know. So I'm just trying to figure this out. And so what I'm saying here is, what if, you know, so our society's kind of just weird. We do this weird stuff. Like, we're not living for the benefit of humanity. Are we? I mean, does it seem like we're actually doing what's best? Like, are we having the most fun here? Like, what do we want to do? What do we really just want to do? Like, just forget everything, you know, just sit here and think, what do I want to do? Like, real deep. Like, I want to say existentially, but it's not necessarily the best word. But, you know, whatever. So, like, what do you want to do with existence? Like, what, you know, you just exist as a human being. Like, what do you want to do? Now, I render that, you know, what makes most sense is you just want to feel the best. Now, how do you go about doing that? Obviously, there's a lot of questions you have to go along the way of what really makes you want to feel the best. And, you know, what is the actual nature of consciousness? And is there something to it beyond this material states that we're led to believe? You know, you can say, dude, that's science, man. If it's science, it can't be wrong, dude. They have this figured out, dude. The scientists got this. It's like, first, there's a lot of disagreements about the nature of consciousness in science. Like, look into quantum mechanics and consciousness. Like, there's a mainstream paradigm. Like, you know, you can call it the popular view. And then there's all these smaller, you know, less invested, who are the investors overall. Yeah, that's the problem. The large investment in the science is coming from the people that maybe aren't looking for the overall benefit of humanity. And so they're investing in these ideas which maybe aren't the best science. So, you know, and the point is, you got to look at this. Look into the philosophy of science. I mean, or just think about it in the terms of, like, science changes, right? Like, you know, there's scientific theories that end up being wrong over time. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the theoretical tenets of science. You know, they don't even have that worked out that well. You know, those are definitely a little more, let's say, malleable. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of different disagreements on the theoretical tenets of science. The thing is, what we can do well with our science now is building shit, you know, right? We have a good grasp of, like, interactive science, like, you know, for instance, aerodynamics, so we can build planes and, you know, thrust and propulsion and all, you know, this shit. Like, you know, I'm talking about, like, all this shit and some, like, thermodynamics or whatever, you know, although some of the theoretical entropy might not be totally correct the way we have it perceived. But, you know, whatever. but I'm saying, so we have this grasp of science well enough so we can build shit within the context. And that's all good and fine, so we can build these technologies. But the theoretical tenets aren't so as worked out as we're kind of led to believe. And I've studied this a lot. So it's, most people haven't, It took me a long time of studying the theoretical tenets of science and what they're saying to even get a hold of this, And I could not have even gone down that path, and I would have just been like, I don't even know what you're talking about, dude. No, they don't teach you that shit. It's like, well, when you really look for it, I didn't look for anything specifically. I just, I honestly trusted what I was being taught for a while. Thought it was just kind of that, and I was naive. Just like, oh, okay, reductionism. There is no overarching. There's just over and above causal action, Why would they just be teaching me this if it wasn't, so clearly right? But, so basically, part of what I'm saying is a lot of what we've been taught might be wrong. And it's through the mainstream scientific view. And it's important to understand that I'm not talking about the practice of science in general, but the mainstream scientific view of materialism. The overarching theory, not the idea of science itself, okay? That's a big difference, okay? It's not saying you can't engage in science to try to understand the level of the universe. Like, no, that's because God did it, and God doesn't want you to do science because God doesn't want you to question him. And that would be fucked up. Why? If we had some creator, whatever the word is, that, loves us and cares for us and wants us to, do whatever he wants us to do, why the fuck would he not want us to question him? And why, and this whole idea of, no, man, you can't modify shit because then you're playing the role of God. And God doesn't want you to do that because God gave you these powers, but he doesn't want you to use them. Like, what's going on here? Maybe we should rebel against this. But what we really want is the good. So if God and good are the same thing, then no, I wouldn't rebel against that. Like, I'm not saying do evil shit. That's fucked up. You know what I mean? So there's more to it than this. It's, some people say it's like a half-truth. There's aspects of this, there's something to it. There's some sort of aspect that we want to look at towards these ideas of divinity, whatever. And honestly, I don't think you can really understand any of the mythologies. They all tie in together. Like, that should be obvious. And then like some of these stories of creation from texts, Eastern stories and all the other myths dating back, they're very similar to like the creation story in Genesis. Like, it's like, kind of dead on the same, just translated different over time, subtleties of what it is. But, the overall stories are basically the same. And really a lot of the religion stems from, you can say the Abrahamic religions kind of tie into paganistic ideas. And some people tell you directly that they won't, but I don't know if they really know what they're talking about. But that's not I don't know if they really know what they're talking about. See, I need to catch myself and not mumble. I've been working on that. Anyways, so what I'm saying here is, they can tie into all these basic themes, and some of them tie into they all tie into like astrology a little bit. And that's interesting shit. And like, that's actually a tangible, if you will, kind of thing you can work with here. And really, you gotta understand that there's more going on that we don't see. Produce, like, the Earth has an electromagnetic field, so does your body actually, and they can measure this shit. There's such a weird tenet. I talk shit about this mainstream overall scientific view, and it's really the mainstream overall philosophical view, because when you look at the science, like, it doesn't even agree with itself. Like, there'll be, like, scientific view, like, part of the mainstream and widely accepted, and they're, like, it doesn't really even fit into the paradigm, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's just so much it doesn't make sense. Like, when you really think about it and look into it, like, what the overall scientific view is and how it meshes with philosophy. Philosophy claims to, tie into the scientific view, but it's really like about 100 years or so behind it. It doesn't make any fucking sense. And what I'm talking about is there's ultimately some kind of philosophical issue here. Like, there's a problem with our philosophy. That's a problem. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we need to consider. We just need to do better philosophy. That's really the point. Just better philosophy. And we need to think about this shit more. We need to question what we're doing, why we're doing it. Why are we just living these lives, and what's the ultimate purpose? And is there some sort of entities, some sort of... I mean, you don't have to fucking think it's extraterrestrial influence or anything like that at all. That's my kind of point here. I don't know about these fucking extraterrestrials. I mean, I've seen a lot of shit about it, and I'm doing a lot of research on it, but I've never, I don't really know. And I'm not trying to sit here and tell you that I do know it, because I'd be fucked up if I tried to claim that I have the answers to some of this. To any of this. I have no fucking answers. I just have questions. And to kind of find, I could say, like, nah, dude, you definitely said something that would count as an answer before. It's like, all right, whatever, dude. You just gotta, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't fully know what's going on. Okay? I'm just an innocent guy trying to figure this out. I just really want to figure this out. And I'm honest. I don't have an ulterior motive to, certainly not an evil one. You could say I have an ulterior motive to help people question their reality and stuff and help people understand this. But, that is kind of the face motive. That's kind of the direct motive. It's not like the ulterior, like this sub, like I have this ulterior motive that I'm just feeding you bullshit so I can try to profit off of it. I ain't making no money on this shit. It'd be cool if I could just make a little money, because it's like I need a job, and I'm not really a guy who wants to go out and get a job, because I think that it's kind of stupid, because I don't believe that, like, we actually, that me working at some business job is really beneficial to society. And, like, no, that's not. To sell you shit you don't need, like, that doesn't benefit society. That doesn't make my job worthwhile. It doesn't make me a good contributor to society. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, I should wrap this up and give it to you as a gift. Now, what? So, what I'm talking about here. So, basically, what I've been talking about, talking about how what we're doing, we need to question a little more. Why are we just doing all this shit? Why are we just building shit? Like, what are we really trying to do here? What's really going on? And it ties in. I have done other videos on free will. And that's actually an interesting one to look at if you haven't already. And so really, and this kind of ties into this. It's like, so if either we have a choice or we don't, some sort of causal influence. If you believe in kind of the main theory that, it's been perpetuated in philosophy, then you think you don't have free will, which is stupid, and I explain more in detail of that in the video. But so if we have the choice, we can have the choice as existence itself to choose what it wants to do. So what do we do? Okay? What the fuck do we want to do? Possibly, I suggest, move towards better, more pleasant states of consciousness. Okay? Very simple, direct, you know what I mean? How we do that, I don't know. But that's what you want to do. And so, is our society structured that way? That's what we need to ask ourselves. Is our society structured so that we actually have an overall benefit of consciousness? I don't think it is. I think we do stupid stuff. Whether there's some sort of actual corruption going on, whether we're just doing it kind of because our ancestors did it, recent ancestors kind of, in the long scheme of it, in the last thousands of years or so, of like modern history is where it kind of started to get fucked up. The Industrial Revolution is where it really took this weird turn, but it's still, all this goes way farther back. So, like, what the fuck we doing? Is it to what we actually want to do? Is it the best that it is, whether you think there any sort of theism, atheism, it doesn't matter. Like, that's not the point here. It's whatever's best for the existence and what that means and what that is. And so you can have different takes on what it is to be best for existence, whether it's just best for humanity, best for all beings on Earth, all animals, creatures, all beings in the entire cosmos, what's just best. And we need to start living towards that and really questioning that and developing and criticizing our cultural dogmas in terms of their philosophical perpetuations, the philosophical paradigms that were brought into the religions, the mainstream materialistic reductionistic science view, start questioning that and really seeing how that benefits us. And we need to start looking into this a little more and looking into the fact that there may be some sort of ulterior motive possibly coming from some extraterrestrial source where we're like working for them somehow, and they have some sort of they feed off of the way we produce things in our society, and somehow they benefit off of the way our society is structured. So like it's not structured for the benefit of humanity, it's structured for the benefit of some sort of other entities. Okay? That would be the basic premise there. That our society is structured not to benefit us, but to benefit someone else. Now, how? I mean, that's trying to leave that vague. Like, I don't really know. I've been trying to. It's hard shit to figure out, man. And it directly relates into the metaphysics. And if you watch some of the other videos I have, I talk about that in sort of the metaphysical terms. Well, whatever that means, metaphysical terms. But of how the organic view of nature and how we're the paradigm we're brought up to doesn't understand how this works, and that's part of the problem. You know what I mean? But like how this actually would be working, of how we would benefit some other entities, doesn't align with the type of ideas we're brought up to believe. And well, that would obviously be on purpose so we don't understand it. Okay? And so, I mean, that's interesting stuff there. So, what you need to look into that, and really to give you a little more insight on what could be going on here with the extraterrestrial influence. Which, by the way, should not be a problem. I think it's kind of cool. It's like, whoa, this gives us a way more cooler stuff to do. Like, I think this excites me. Like, I think it's like, wait a second. So you're telling me, because it means that we could have so much better lives. The existence is so much more than just this. And I think that's absolutely fascinating. That's pretty fucking cool. So we need to look, that's why I like looking at this stuff. And, there's also good extraterrestrials, which, it has to do with this. They have this higher level of consciousness, and, like, they're beyond our notion of time and space, and, like, and they're just much more blissful and, peaceful consciousness and, all this shit, okay? That's cool stuff. And that, like, potentially humanity could raise to this higher level of consciousness, and we could have all this stuff, or we could just be all this stuff, And that'd be pretty cool. But what other people are saying about the, what we call malevolent extraterrestrials, perhaps, is that, they're not doing it because they think it's bad to us. They're doing it because they think they have every right to. And maybe it is kind of just like how we do control sheep. We don't realize that, maybe the sheep have feelings too. The sheep have feelings, or something, something like that. I don't really know. But you know what I'm saying on that? Like, it's just like, we do it. Are we evil? No, not necessarily. Some of us kind of, but, it's like, maybe they don't even realize what they're really doing here because they don't have that, some people say they're like purely these logical beings. They don't have empathy and emotion, so they can't comprehend what they're really doing. You ever see that Rick and Morty episode? I don't remember the name of it, but Rick... the show Rick and Morty, it's on Cartoon Network, it's pretty awesome, I'd recommend it. But like, so Rick has his car battery, and it's powered, and there's this little universe inside his car battery, and it's through them working, it powers his car battery. Through their whole societal development, it powers his car battery. And, and Morty's like, well, Rick, isn't that just slavery? I can't do a Morty impression. I've never really worked on it. But Rick's like, I don't even fucking remember what, I was like, no, Morty. Because he burps and drinks. That wasn't even a good burp. But he's like, no, Morty. It's not slavery. And Morty's like, that sounds like slavery with extra steps. And so if you've seen that episode, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, look into Rick and Morty. But that's some interesting shit there, man. And so I should have left it at, like, that might be the question. Like, look, we just need to try to, look into a little more about what the fuck's going on and what the fuck we want to do. And maybe we can get a little somewhere with this. Maybe there's more to it than we understand. And, stay tuned, because I'll try to explain that. This is my whole basic hypothesis relates to all this. And all these videos I've made are related. And this one really hasn't been that funny. The other ones are kind of funnier. I try to incorporate a little more jokes. So, because I don't want to just be boring. Because some people find philosophy boring, and it's just because we have shitty philosophy, so they find that philosophy boring. In general, philosophy is the most fun thing you can do, besides psychedelics. No. Besides transcending into like some other dimension of consciousness, which psychedelics may be able to help you do that. So I hear. So I hear. Wouldn't know. Or would I? So, alright, we just got to really consider all this, and just kind of really just work on building a better society. And that's the thing. So you could sit here and say, like, well, our society's shit, but then that's the thing. So we need to work on building a better one. We can't just say this is wrong and then not have an answer of what to do better. We need to work on building some better society which actually has the benefit of humanity in mind. I didn't hit end. I do this every fucking time. So now I'm just sitting here awkward. There's a little smile at the end, and now I'm going to have to do it again. Building a better society, which actually has the benefit of humanity in mind. Fuck!